Just a couple weeks ago, the Pac-12 announced that they will be adding 4 new teams: Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Boise State. Just when everyone thought that the Beavs and Cougs would fall to their death together as the Pac-2, they're now right back in the game with a bona fide conference to support them. This move has really big implications concerning conference realignment though, and I for one am a big fan of talking about this sort of thing. So let's go ahead and discuss what all could go down now that this change has happened. The biggest change with this move is that the Mountain West just got a giant chunk bitten out of them, where they're now left without some of their most successful teams and are down to just 8 members. The minimum number of schools a conference needs to hold a championship game is 10, so they'll need to act fast and add 2 schools to get back to that number so they stay relevant in the public eye during championship week. The only problem is that there's nobody out here. Literally the entire western half of the country, for whatever reason, is a barren wasteland when it comes to college football. I guess because they're kind of a barren wasteland when it comes to nature. But anyways, the only schools out west that aren't already firmly tied to a conference are New Mexico State and UTEP from Conference USA. Since Conference USA is a lot less prestigious than the Mountain West, I think that New Mexico State and UTEP would gladly welcome the upgrade to the Mountain West. But Conference USA was kind of already ready for a situation like this to happen, because they're already planning on adding Kennesaw State, Delaware, and Missouri State up from the FCS, so they'll be just fine in terms of numbers. That's just phase 1 of this whole operation. If you think the Pac is stopping at just 6 teams, you're wrong, buddy. You're not that guy. Alright, you might actually be that guy, I'm not really sure. But if the 6-pack is fairly successful for the first couple years, guess who might want back in? Stanford and Cal. I've heard a lot of people doubting that Cal and Stanford would want to leave the ACC that bad, but let me tell you right now, man, they're on a lifeboat. The ACC's revenue distribution from the 2022 to 2023 season averaged out to be $44.8 million per team. But as part of the new contract, Stanford and Cal are only receiving 30% of what other teams are for the next 7 years. Meaning, given that most recent number for revenue, Stanford and Cal would only be cashing out at around $13 million. That's not even factoring in the much higher cost for travel that Stanford and Cal have to deal with now that they are only playing schools on the other side of the country. So it wouldn't take a lot to pull them away from the ACC. Now the Pac in this situation is up to 8 teams, which still isn't enough for a championship game, but it is enough for them to be eligible to send their champion to the college football playoff with an automatic bid. The ACC, on the other hand, just kind of lost their insurance policy with Stanford and Cal. If they can't lock Clemson and Florida State down, all heck is going to break loose. So to replace these 2 random teams that have absolutely no business being in the Atlantic Coast Conference, we're going to bring in 2 more random teams that have at least a little bit of business being in this conference. First up, it's UConn, baby.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Alright, hear me out, man. UConn could be a lot better at football if we just give them the chance. They've been independent for years now, which if you're any team other than Notre Dame, it means you're broke. College football, sadly, is pay to win now, so if we throw them at least a little bit of cash, maybe they can do something with it. If it doesn't work out with football, at least you have them to boost the conference's value in men's and women's basketball. The other school that I could see the ACC adding is a team from the Sun Belt. This is a tough one. Coastal has some really crazy fans. JMU has been on the rise the past few years. Give me App, bro. It's a no-brainer. Power 5 matchups in Boone would go absolutely nuts. They're already rivals with the other teams in North Carolina, and normally, they actually put a pretty good product out on the field. If this happens though, that means that the Sun Belt just lost their flagship program. Now, if only there was another team in the Appalachian Mountains with a really strong football program that's also willing to leave their current conference. That's right, I'm talking about Liberty. Now, if Liberty goes to the Sun Belt, Conference USA kind of just has to deal with it. They could try and add another FCS school or pick up UMass or something, but I'm not even going to go there right now. On the West Coast though, I do think that there is one FCS program that does have a legitimate shot at coming up into the FBS and maybe joining the Mountain West. And that school is Sacramento State. They've made the playoffs 4 years in a row now, and they have over 30,000 students. So they're the Mountain West's best bet as a new addition in the long-term future. Now, phase 3 of the Pac-12's revival is way too far out for me to make any specific predictions, but the goal would be to bump up to at least 10 teams to regain eligibility for a championship game. I think, 10 or so years down the road, there might be a couple teams in the Big 12 or Big 10 that end up becoming perennial bottom feeders trying to compete with the country's top talent, and the Pac could swoop in and give them a more appropriate level of competition. Maybe it's Arizona and Arizona State, maybe Washington takes a nosedive, or maybe even Colorado jumps back to the Pac even though most of their rivals are still in the Big 12. Whatever the future may hold, I'm just glad that the Pac has been able to stay alive and are on track to make a revival. I know that my predictions are flawless and are 100% going to happen, so don't even bother telling me what your predictions are, because you're wrong. I've been itching to make another video like this, and I'm glad that I was able to do it, even if it was a little bit shorter than normal. So thank you for subscribing and supporting the channel. That gives me motivation to make more content like this. I'll see y'all later. Stay safe out there.